Well, hello there. Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Two Sons Podcast. Sorry, for that little introduction. The recording thing really threw me off on the screen because I've never seen recording and transcription before. On the
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. That's why I exited that out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know if I should stop talking or just keep going. But you know what? You know what I always say on Two Sons podcast that we like raw, uncut, and unedited footage, and this is exactly what it is. We haven't done this for like 2 weeks, so we're a little rusty, but we'll get right back into it. You guys ever seen Wizard of Oz and you seen the Tin Man? He's like, "Oh, I'm the Tin Man and I'm rusty," and then somebody comes along, I don't remember who, I haven't seen it in a while, and it's like, and gives him some oil, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm the Tin Man, and I'm not rusty now. Oh, look at me dance, ooh ha," and so on and so forth. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Two Sons Podcast. If you could not tell by the title of this episode, we're going to be finishing out our lovely Ahsoka miniseries episode within our podcast, talking about Ahsoka episode 8, their final episode of the series. What a wonderful series it has been. What a wonderful journey. A lot of fun, a lot of twists and turns along the way, and a very, very great final, in my opinion. So very excited to talk about it now. Sorry it's a little late, but we got to close out our Ahsoka series. You guys have been loving it. I just want to say once again, thank you for all the support. The last episode I did talking about the sequels did great. It's actually right outside our top 10 episodes right now. So either you guys love Star Wars, you love sequels, you love us, you love us, you love us, you love us. I knew it. He got a crush on us. I have a girlfriend, so don't even think about it. All right. But getting along with the episode, we have a lot of news, a lot of things going on right now that we could talk about before we hop into the episode. But as always, let's hop in and let's talk about how our host and co-host are doing today. Man across the screen from me, brother of mine, co-host of mine, and the 24-year-old on this call. How we doing? Oh, hit him with it. Astronomically dab right there. Oh my goodness. That is lethal. Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, excuse me, guys. I'm getting over a cold. So ignore the old man coughs in the background, all right?
Are you
See, that
okay?
would normally be edited out, but I'm a lot better. So, we won't have many of those. I'm drinking coffee to try to simmer it down for a few eggs.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Yes.
So
Well,
my dear brother, I'm doing pretty okay, to be honest. For those of you that do not know, it has been a interesting couple of 2 weeks since
certainly
we have
has.
last recorded our beloved podcast. Well, for me, what was going on in my life is that not last week, but the week before, I did get my lower wisdom teeth taken out. So I was incapacitated for that day. So I couldn't record an episode. So that's why Joey did some sort of single episode. So appreciate all the love and support on that. Like he said, you guys really seem to enjoy it. So I mean, you just enjoy his beautiful voice, or maybe his face. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yes.
there's just something about this man,
Is that something about me? I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
that's
Like
right.
this is why. This is why Two Sons Podcast is the thing.
And then, unfortunately, last week we did recently have a death in the family. Our beloved grandmother did pass away, so I was actually up in New York, but with all that going on, we just didn't have time to record an episode. So that's why we have been very absent these last 2 weeks. But we appreciate all your love and support and the patience. And guys, get us up to 1,000 followers, so Joey will buy himself the UCS Venator.
I will stick to my promise. I will dip into my savings and I will take that money out just for you guys. Um, if you haven't seen that post on Instagram, hit it up. I think I put it on Facebook too, Twitter. So I don't even know, but definitely check it out and maybe make it happen. Make it be pretty cool. I always want you guys to interact. Now's your chance
And Joey, how many followers do we have currently?
on Instagram.
Oh,
or
I don't know if you never really described like,
I was
if
just
it
talking about Instagram because it was a lot more easier of a goal. We have currently 652 followers on the Instagram, so
guys,
a little
we're pretty much already halfway there. So yeah, just drop that follow on the socials, more specifically on Instagram. Um,
yes.
and basically, I think if we just reach 1,000 followers on something, then he will go and buy himself the vendor. And not
For
only will he
sure.
do that, but he will take a video of himself going to the Lego store or buying it online, showing proof that he did
I will.
buy the vendor, in fact.
I will. I will make sure that I'm there in my full flesh, so you guys know I did spend $1,000 or whatever it is on it.
Mhm.
Um,
That's right.
excuse me. I also want to say, just before you get into the rest, we have some new analytics on the podcasters platform. If you guys don't know, that is basically Spotify's podcasting platform, previously known as Anchor, and they call it Spotify Impressions. Now, I am not exactly sure on the specifics of this, but on my phone it shows that we have over 2,800 of these impressions. So we have roughly around 3,000 of these impressions, which means apparently over 2,000 people have searched us on Spotify, just Spotify alone. Um, 500 and something appeared on their Spotify home, whether or not you listened to us before, whether or not maybe you searched up our name and it just stayed on your homepage. I don't know. And we have over 62 in their Spotify library. So that means 62 of you must have taken a gander into our podcast. I just want to say those are crazy numbers. That's thousands of people that somehow reach our podcast. Doesn't show in the followers and or like plays, but if that's true, I mean, that's amazing for us, and that's a huge milestone. And it is insane to me that somehow over 2,000 people have just searched us alone on Spotify, whether or not we were who you were hoping to find or not. Um, but shout out to all of you guys, and I'm so glad that our podcast continues to get out there. But I will go into that further. I just wanted to mention that before I forgot about it because it was something new in our podcasting journey that I recently discovered the other day.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was pretty much going to wrap up basically what's been going on. So unfortunately, not very good news. A lot of craziness and turmoil these last 2 weeks. But we're just starting to get our footing once again. Getting back into the original routine of work and school, and even this week has been pretty crazy, to be honest, especially with work. And then school's been okay, as usual. And yeah, hopefully the weekend is looking a little brighter. I might be going to a Halloween party tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. Your boy's gonna be going as Ghostface.
Ooh,
So haha, tell me what your favorite scary movie is. Haha.
Personally, I'm a fan of other horror icons, but you do you.
I didn't ask, but thank you for telling me.
Just
Um,
sharing, our
yeah,
thoughts.
thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Guys, I apologize for him. Sorry, I don't know why he's interrupting me. Weird.
yeah, I
Um,
understand it's your segment. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
No, it's
Anyway, like I was saying before I was really interrupted, yeah, but your boy's gonna be going as Ghostface. Apparently they didn't have the original Ghostface, so I'm gonna be going as like the Dead by Daylight version. So he's basically just the same, but he has like a red mask with like horns.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, what's the
Yeah,
difference?
I mean, I don't know if it's like a skin for Ghostface or whatever, but it's pretty cool.
Damn,
So I mean, I'm gonna try
Ghostface
it
must
on
be
and
popular if there's not a regular mask around. Jeez.
yeah, obviously, Ghostface is very popular, especially on social media, and then especially with the ladies. There's just been this trend going around. Guys, if you want to, spice up your time in the bedroom, get a Ghostface mask for some reason, because apparently that
I'm
drives girls crazy.
I'm just saying, there's not another mask out there that like that what if I show up with like
You
a
know
Michael
what
Myers
really get
mask?
me
Like, is
going, to
that
be honest? If somebody just showed up with a 332nd Clone Trooper helmet on, to be honest, that would really get me going.
I mean, come on, especially if I was like, I can't think of any phrases in my
Like
mind.
if
Just
this
come back
man
to me.
across the screen walked into my room with nothing but a Clone Trooper helmet on, oh God.
That's it. That's
I'd be questioning
instantaneous.
all types of things. Let me tell you.
Exactly. Like, that you'd have a whole battalion in there,
That's
you
right.
know? I'm not really sure what we're talking about
Like I
anymore right
said, we
now.
like a raw on Two Sons podcast.
We certainly do.
Uh-huh.
We need to move on from this topic, please.
But yeah, so here's to hoping that the weekend is, a little bit nicer, and then it'll be on to the next week, and then obviously next week is Halloween, so hopefully everybody's ready for the official end of spooky season, and hopefully everybody has, a good and safe Halloween, and then right after that we hit November 1st, and then all we hear is I don't want a lot for
we we definitely have not talked about spooky season much this spooky season, unfortunately. But there really hasn't been much to talk about in terms of movies or films coming out. There's
But wait,
only one.
Joey, there is something that we could talk about real quick.
Oh boy, I wonder what. Oh,
Oh, did you guys hear that? Oh, I wonder what that is.
My God, I wonder what that is. Like, off. Like I hear it coming. Oh my God, is that who are you? Who who what? Five Nights at Freddy's is coming out tomorrow, November October 27th in theaters near you, and I'm pretty sure it's out today. Um, so yes, as we have both said, me specifically as well on this podcast, I am very excited for that film. Um, Heard the reviews are not great by critics. Pretty sure it is in the low 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, but you know how we feel about Rotten Tomatoes. Also, who cares? I mean, critics are not going to come to this movie and think it's critically acclaimed. I mean, it's about a pizzeria with killer animatronics.
And
You
like, I mean,
know,
we talked about this off camera, but I mean, it's been well known that the directors of this film basically made this film for the fans. So if these critics are going to go see this movie and critique it, they're going to have no idea what's going on. So obviously they're going to give it a poor score. So, I mean, honestly, what's really going to matter is when the audience score comes out and then what the audience thinks of it.
and apparently it's pretty early, so we'll know more after tomorrow and the weekend. Mainly the audience score. I'm sure it'll come out tomorrow or something. Uh, it seems like it's gonna be another Mario movie scenario. I'm pretty sure the Mario movie had like 40% Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience score was in the 90s or something. I'd assume it's gonna be very similar. Early reviews is from casual fans. They loved it. Fans, they loved it as well. They said some parts are like a little like, I don't know, I guess strange that they put in there or something. But as far as I know, it pretty much follows what the first, you know, game was. I actually need to look more into the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's to really truly understand. But I got hope going in. I don't think I'll see it in the theater just yet, just because it seems like it has crowds. I mean, I've seen videos of crowded theaters all over, so I wouldn't be surprised if you go this weekend and your theater's crowded. Also, if there's any like kids there, below like the ages of 11, I don't expect them to understand, even who Freddy is, because I'm pretty sure their only introduction was Security Breach or something, and I don't want that cringe in my theater. No offense to kids out there. Actually, screw you. Offense to kids out there. um, what's it called? But yeah, so that is something we both are very excited for tomorrow. I don't know if I'll watch it tomorrow. I know somebody has a Peacock account in our family, so I can watch it. It is on Peacock as well as theaters tomorrow, I believe, the same day. I don't really think you need a movie theater experience unless you want to sit in a giant dark room and have more of a surround sound. You could just sit in a dark room at your house, but whatever works for you. Be my guest. I don't work for the movies anymore, so I don't speak for the brand of the company. But yeah, sorry to like cut you off again with your little talk, but I know you really didn't have crazy
I mean,
amount.
I mean, if you want to just go, I mean, you can go now. I mean,
Well, I
I'm
mean,
pretty
you're
much
pretty
done.
much done. I was,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
were
well, it
talking
would have been
about it,
nice to let
so
me finish at least, before you just, cut me off again,
really wasn't cutting
so.
you off. You actually weren't speaking at that current moment, but go ahead, finish before
No,
I.
no, no, no. I mean, I'm done. I'm done. I
No, it's
finished what I had
fine.
to
I
say.
mean, all right. So as you guys just saw there between me and my brother's little exchange, he's what I call like a Willy Donkey boy. I don't know. So what's it called? Like my brother said, a couple of things have happened in the past couple of weeks. So we've been pretty busy and occupied with other things. But work is work, school is school. Getting a little worried about my major because I see a lot of negatives on it. So trying to think positive towards that. Again, everybody's experience is their own experience. So I hope mine's different. If it's not, I have a couple other plans. Hopefully, I don't really know what's going on yet, but we'll see. Just trying to get along with it. So, any of you college or high school students out there, it definitely is okay to not truly understand exactly where you want to go in life or what you want to do. It's a very hard decision to make, even if you're in a master's or grad program or if you're well into your undergraduate program, it's okay. You can always switch fields later on in life. I mean, just because you get a master's or a degree in something doesn't mean that's the thing you have to do. Just be smart about it, play your cards right, just find what works for you. Whether or not it's your dream, try to do that on the side, just like this. This is something we do on the side. Hopefully, maybe it'll become our lives one day. Who knows? The world is strange. Speaking of that, I just listened. I actually just finishing. I finished, excuse me, listening to it on Spotify because I had several ads for it. So I finally started listening to it. It was this little mini series starring Oscar Isaac and Juliana Moore called Case 63. And it was basically a story narrated by them two and a couple others. Um, Long story short, about time travel, end of the world, stuff like that. I loved it. Kind of sad that it wasn't longer. Hope they come out with more. I don't know. Oscar Isaac, lovely voice, by the way. Same with Juliana Moore. I literally just looked up their names to listen to things on Spotify with their names because they are, I just really enjoyed listening to the two of them. Um, but Philip, I told you about it. You should definitely check it out. Right now, I am listening to this other audio series that's narrated by Rami Malek. I'm sure you guys know who Rami Malek is. If you do not know, he played Freddie Mercury, and he's known for also another series, Mr. Robot. Was in a recent James Bond movie. I'm pretty sure a couple other things as well. But he plays like the main character, and basically, again, it's like a their town or the world or something basically has a blackout, something, more end of the world stuff. I think that stuff is fascinating, by the way, especially if it's not like some weird alien stuff. If it's just like a natural thing. It's very interesting to see how humankind will play out. Excuse me. So I've been listening to that. I think it helps me study and focus at work as well. And it's nice to listen to in the car, unless you have Two Sons podcast on in your car, which, random viewers out there, I know I do. Not because I'm the host and I want you guys to listen to our podcast. I'm winking. In case you're not watching us on, face to face or video to video or something like that. But unless you're not watching Two Sons podcast, on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or your other podcasting platforms, I highly suggest, things like that. Also, if you guys got any other, things you listen to out there, let us know, because I love interaction on the social medias. Sure don't get a lot of it, but you know what? I'll keep grilling you guys. Excuse me. I'll keep grilling you guys every single day of this podcast about that. Because again, I will do a lovely giveaway. You will get. You will. What will they get, Philip? Ask me what they'll get. Just ask me. Ask me.
Nothing.
No, you're supposed to ask me. Ask me what they'll get.
Oh, hey Joey, what are they gonna get?
Well, my co-host, I am offering a choice of 3 authentic movie theater posters. Brand new, never used, touched, sealed. Well, actually, not sealed in the tube, but brand new, uncreased, beautiful looking posters. Which posters? I don't know. You guys don't tell me what you like, but I got almost everything in the books. So you let me know. You let me know, and I will do a giveaway of one of those 3 posters to one lucky viewer out there. What will be the contest? I'm not sure yet. Once I get interaction, we'll find out what you guys like the most. But until that day, you will be missing out. So, hey, it's on you guys. I mean, again, you don't want to talk to us. That is completely fine. But I'm just saying, Two Sons Podcast can offer a lot in the future. That one click, that one, oh hey guys, I love your podcast, or like I don't, something like that, or just a yeah, nice, you know, or oh you guys suck, like Two Sons Podcast, more like two trash compactor, you could even do that. It's your opinion at the end of the day. But without getting on a tangent here, yeah. So I don't even remember what I was talking about at this point. But yes, we are both doing well. Lots of stuff. But again, spooky season is coming to an end with Halloween. Hopefully, you guys go out trick or treat, get some free candy, go to parties, do whatever you do on Halloween. I don't know, wear a costume or something like that. And then we are right around the corner of Christmas and Thanksgiving, two wonderful times of the year. And we'll definitely talk about that more. But we are here to discuss. What are we here to discuss?
Well, I think before we get into that, I was just kind of thinking when you brought up Christmas time, what if we like try to put together some sort of like Two Sons podcast, like Amazon wish list, and see if like our viewers will buy us Christmas presents? And
It's just funny to me because
And
they
then
won't even
we could do like an
comment.
episode where like, if viewers actually sent us Christmas presents, like we could just open them and be like, "Oh, this is from so and so. Oh, thank you so much."
If we do, hey, I'm not opposed to doing that, but if we do that and you do that instead of commenting on this podcast,
We'll be
I
forever
will be,
grateful, right? Yeah, we'll be
I
super
will,
grateful.
yeah, super grateful, and I will be completely astonished. But yeah, we'll definitely work on that. We'll make a Two Sons podcast Christmas wish list. Excuse me, and we'll get into that. So, like I was saying before, what are we here to talk about, fella?
Well, my dear brother, we are here to talk about the finale of the recently done Star Wars Disney project, Ahsoka.
Yes, very
So
excited.
we've had some pretty good things to say about the show throughout all of our breakdowns and reactions, pretty much. I think the lowest we've probably given this show is probably a 7. So this show has been fairly highly rated. And then, like my brother said, this is the final wrap up of our little mini series. So if you guys are looking to watch all of these, it will be on Two Sons Podcast or the YouTube page at Two Sons Podcast, and it'll be in the Star Wars tab with all the other Star Wars videos that we've done in the past. So all the episodes from the very beginning up to episode 7, which was our most recent one, are on there for your viewing pleasure. So like I said, the most recent one did pretty well, and then the solo episode did pretty well. So it seems like you guys like some Star Wars. We love Star Wars. You guys love Star Wars. It's the perfect combination. Kind of like, raviolis and cheese. That just kind of goes pretty well together. So that's just an example right there. Milk and cereal. Cookies and cream. All that good stuff.
I don't agree with the milk and cereal, by the way. I'm not a
Well,
fan
I
of
didn't
that.
ask if you agreed. I mean, that's just how it
Peanut
is.
butter
So
and jelly,
that's right.
grilled and cheese,
Nah, I don't know about that one.
fork.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
But yes, we are here to talk
Coffee and
about.
creamer.
Anyway, we are here to talk about the the finale of Ahsoka. So I think before we get into it, we'll just kind of give our ratings. So for the finale, I am probably going to give it a solid 8 out of 10 suns. I thought it was a pretty good finale. I don't think it was the greatest, but I thought it did the job and it was pretty good. Obviously, there are heavy points taken off for certain things that happened in the episode. We will definitely dive into it because it is very annoying. But yes, it is another good episode, and it is a good finale for a good little show. I think if I had to officially rank this is definitely an A tier show, but it is low A tier, so it is like the A minus of the A tier. Um, I think overall, I think The Mandalorian is still better. I think Andor is still better. But it is A tier because it is better than the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. It is better than the Book of Boba Fett. It's better than Star Wars Visions. Um, Obviously way better than Star Wars Resistance. I haven't seen the Young Jedi Tales, but I'm assuming that's probably just a casual B tier, maybe C tier show. I mean, for kids, I don't really know how you would rate a kid show when it came to Star Wars. But regardless, it does deserve that A tier, no matter what anybody says. Like I said, there were a few things that definitely threw me off that I just really was not expecting that unfortunately lowered the grade on this episode for me, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But that is my grade. So it will be a solid 8 out of 10 suns for my viewing pleasure.
All right, my grade for the final episode of Ahsoka is going to be a 9.1. Pretty different from my brother.
What is the 0.1? Like, can you describe to me what gave the 0.1? Why isn't it just a 9 out of 10? Why is it 0.1?
So, you ever have a grilled cheese?
No, because I don't like grilled cheese.
All right, you ever have a bagel?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so you have a bagel with butter, you have a bagel with cream cheese, right? It's like biting that piece of the bagel that has a good amount of butter or cream cheese on it, but like it's not a complete layer. It's thick on the left, but it's non-existent on the right, and that's the part that gets at that point. It's not completely thick. It's like I don't know. I got cream cheese in my mouth. It's like I know it's supposed to be there, but it's not. You know, that is why we get the 0.1, because I loved a lot about this episode. And there's one thing that I know me and you both really didn't like about this episode, and there's a couple of questions I have which kind of give it that point. Otherwise, I would have gave it, high, 9 point above 9.5 or something if it wasn't for a couple of things. But overall, I absolutely love the episode, and I thought it was a great way to close out the show, but also definitely a couple of things that made me question, certain motives or things that I guess went along with the show.
That was like a terrible explanation for your 0.1. I mean,
What do you say? What do you say? I
I
literally
mean,
just
like
explained.
you had me until like the piece of bagel, and then when you said that like one side wasn't as good as the other, then you lost me. I mean, like I just don't understand that.
It's literally so okay. Let me explain it this way, right? So you know how you're watching a show, right? Anime, Clone Wars, something like that.
Sure.
Okay, so you're really enjoying the episode. They're, I don't know, they're overcoming their biggest fear, or they're doing something really cool. So it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a great episode. But then, like, a random character over there just, like, has to come in and, break the main character's leg, and it stops him from doing what he's supposed to be doing. So it's like, oh, now when we could have seen, so and so score the golden blue lock, now he's benched for the rest of the game. That's how I would describe a 0.1. We were going, we were almost there, and his leg got broken, man, by his own
So like
player.
I understand that, but I just don't understand how that translates to a 0.1. Like, why
Listen,
wouldn't it be like an 8.9 then instead of like a 9.1?
because he was on his way to score the goal. That's the key. It's not like he was running in the other direction. He was going to score the goal. He was right there. He was like 10 yards out, if that.
So you're saying
But
if
then,
he
then
scored
he
the
got
goal, then
stopped.
if he scored the goal, then what score would have you given it?
9.7.
What is I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I don't know where the fuck the 0.6 comes from.
Listen, we've done points on this show plenty of times. I don't know why you got a problem with it now.
But it's just the 9. It doesn't make any sense. I just
Listen. Two Sons Podcast don't make sense. All right, you can't think so hard about it.
okay.
Get
Well,
up on
we're gonna move
it.
on. Before yeah, we're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on.
All right, viewers, I guess we're moving on.
Okay, I don't know who you're talking to because they don't interact with
Our
us.
viewers, I
So
just stated that our viewers. I'm assuming people are listening to this, right? People listen to Two Sons Podcast, I hope.
it's like someone just has this on in the background. They're just like in the other room, like doing something. It's like, you guys there? Hello?
They're definitely like, no, we don't listen. Like, responding to us.
Just like, no, shut up. Yeah, okay. So obviously we both have this episode pretty highly rated, so that's off to a good start. I think we should just I don't know, do you want to talk about the negatives first, or do you just want to go right into the positives?
Um, Probably
What did
negatives.
we
I
talk
mean,
about first
again,
last time when we did this? Did we do negatives first or positives first?
normally we do negatives because we don't really have much negatives to talk about in the show.
Okay.
I mean, this one I
Well,
mainly got like 2 or 3, give or take.
all right. Well, you know what? Let's do positives first because I just feel like it. Um,
Nice.
all right. So what are some positives that you saw in this episode for the finale?
Okay. One, I love that Ezra had his own lightsaber.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that was this episode. I'm pretty sure it opened with him building his own lightsaber.
Actually, it didn't, but it was towards the beginning.
Okay. Well, towards the beginning, we saw Ezra constructing his own lightsaber, and I know that was a concern from many viewers when we first saw Ezra and him not take the lightsaber. Everybody thought he was not going to wield the lightsaber, was going to pull Luke from The Last Jedi. Obviously, that didn't happen. He pulled it out and he busted some helmets up in the episode. We'll get into that later. We saw references during that building of a lightsaber to his old master, Caleb Dune, or as we know him, Kanan. Kanan Jarrus from Rebels, which I thought I had hope we were going to see him or hear him in this episode, but we didn't. Still holding our hope we might see a glimpse of him somewhere somehow in the future. But I thought that was a very nice callback, and I thought it was very nice that they also referenced the lightsaber hilt and the lightsaber the lightsaber thickness, kind of talking about the Rebels lightsabers, that they were too thin and they looked weird in the show. So that was kind of a little throw in from Dave Filoni, I believe. And I really liked that the lightsaber was very similar to Kanan's. That was a great I guess, part introduction to the episode. I honestly loved Ezra in this episode as well. I thought he was absolutely badass. I feel like he was back and we saw the Ezra that we should see all along, especially when him, Ahsoka, and Sabine later in the episode are pretty much fighting all of Thrawn's undead, dead, quote unquote troopers. And he's using a force, he's using his lightsaber, he's spinning around, he's twirling, he's spinning, he's doing whatever, and just murking them. I love that part of it. It was nice to see Sabine kind of get her mojo back in this, but I do have some qualms about how she necessarily got her mojo back. I like seeing the Death Troopers. That was quite a surprise, very pleasant one. Um, I thought Thrawn was even better in this episode. I mean, again, I felt like a lot of moments, you kept on seeing more and more of that likeness come out that we know from Rebels, mainly because there was just so much stuff happening that it's like no matter like, yeah, Ezra and Sabine and Ahsoka are on their way, so they're gonna win, and they're doing all this stuff, and Thrawn's like, oh well, they got past that. That was, that's for a reason. Oh well, they did that. They're still, and even in the end, when they quote unquote win, they still lose. And that's something that I really love about Thrawn's character in this. Um, excuse me. I also wanted to say that forgot her name, but you know who I'm talking about. The one
Morgan Elsbeth.
Morgan Elsbeth. I thought she was absolutely badass in this. Not that she was never not badass, but we saw amazing fight between her and Ahsoka in this, as well as the introduction of another weapon that we have seen in the Clone Wars. I thought that was very interesting. And she was just again, she was great in this episode. Shout out to that actress for the whole series and even her little part in The Mandalorian. Also, shout out to Rosario Dawson. I really loved Ahsoka in this episode. I thought she was equal parts badass, equal parts, great teacher, equal parts just Ahsoka that everybody wants to see. Um, I enjoyed seeing Balin and Shin again. However, I don't think we saw enough of them in this episode, and that will be a little negative later. But I enjoyed um, seeing more of Balin mainly, and I liked how they ended his story, so to speak, or left it off. Um, excuse me. I liked a couple more cameos or little Easter eggs we got thrown in there. I love seeing Morai. Basically Ahsoka, the bird owl creature that we see in Rebels. And I'm pretty sure did we see it in Clone Wars? Yeah, that basically follows Ahsoka around. I love seeing that. Spoiler alert. Also love seeing Anakin Skywalker again at the end. I thought it was a beautiful shot. And we'll get into that a little later. Um, I kind of like how everybody did not necessarily win in terms of Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra. And I definitely like the end with a reunion between spoiler alert guys, but it's been out for 3 weeks, so I don't even think I need to say that. But seeing a reunion between Ezra, Hera, and Chopper as of now. That's all we know and all we saw. And I'm excited to see Thrawn back in, the universe we know and love in Star Wars, in a galaxy not so far, far away now. Uh, all right. So yeah, I mean, again, pretty action-packed episode two. I loved all the fight sequences. I thought they did great. Um, and wonderful story as well. So again, overall a positive episode for me. There are a couple of qualms and um, things I have to say about it definitely. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I thought they ended a couple of character stories, pretty well. I thought they opened up a couple of new chapters, that are interesting, and I think some stories were kind of left undiscovered, as well as some directions I hope they didn't go in, but they did. Now we got to talk about where exactly we think that's gonna go.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, very well said. Pretty much like, any of the positives that I would have said, pretty much, you kind of covered. Um, sorry, I do want to do a part where, we do discuss like, some of the implications for the episode and like, what it means for the future. But I think since we just kind of covered the positives, I think we should kind of cover the negatives real
yeah,
quick, just so we can spend some time talking on those. So obviously I'll be the Debbie Downer and I'll talk about all the negatives. Um, all right, right off the bat, obviously the biggest issue here is Sabine.
yes,
So as you guys know, since you've been watching the show and you've been watching our breakdowns, um, there was rumors that they were going to make Sabine Wren force sensitive. Obviously, we saw it in the early episodes of the show. We kind of saw it teased throughout the whole entire series, but it never really amounted to anything. She tried to do some things with the Force here and there. Not even an inkling of Force power. Nothing. No vibrations. No movements. No shaking. Nothing. She would do what every kid has done in their lifetime and try to use the Force, and nothing would happen. That was basically the extent of her force power. Okay? So we're all on the same page right now, okay? So this is where we're at, okay? Keep in mind that this force ability was pretty much stagnant in the same all the way up until episode 7, which was the most recent episode before the finale of Ahsoka. All right? Are we all with each other right now?
we
We're
are.
all still in the
We
same
are.
boat? Okay.
I'm with you.
So keep that in mind. Now we get to the finale, right? And again, we see her, trying to use the Force, right? We see that scene of Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine running into the castle on Peridea. And, obviously Grand Admiral Thrawn is having the Star Destroyer, fire down shots on them. And, Ahsoka's like, oh, Sabine, Ezra, help me, lift this wall. So, we see her put her hand out, but, we don't really think too much of it, right? We're like, okay, well, combined with Ahsoka and Ezra, they'll probably just be able to lift that wall by themselves. There's no way Sabine helped, right? It was kind of just more like, oh, let's have Sabine be involved and just, have her do the hand thing too.
Yeah.
So you didn't really think much of it, right? The scene continues to play on. They're fighting the stormtroopers, then they eventually become death troopers because they are imbued by Night Sister magic. You continue to fight, through the castle, up the stairs, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Then we get to the scene where, like, Ahsoka is basically fighting one on one via, with Morgan and Elsbeth. She's also holding off, some of the Death Troopers. Now we have Sabine and Ezra come across two actual Death Troopers. They're dead, but they're classified as Death Troopers according to Star Wars lore. So now they're Death Troopers, or they're Super Death Troopers.
Yeah.
By the way, their designs looked phenomenal. I mean, like they were
Yes.
pretty much like zombified to a T. They looked great. They were super OP. Like honestly, they should have killed Sabine, to be honest.
Oh yeah, they were.
Um,
They
but
were
again,
crazy.
we'll find out why in a second. So again, keep this in mind, right? We are all understanding her force ability, her understanding of the force. Basically, she has very little combat experience when it comes to a lightsaber. She has very little to non-existent force power. All right, we're all in the same boat, right? You're still following me here?
Yes.
Okay. So then we get to that scene where, her and Ezra are fighting the Death Troopers. Super awesome scene. The Death Troopers sound scary. They're extremely strong and they're tough and really in a hand to hand, they really do mess people up, to be honest. So, we see Ezra struggling against his, of course. And then we get to Sabine. This Death Trooper has her pinned up against the wall, basically hands on her throat. She's basically about to be choked out. And then this is going to be the end for Sabine, right? By some force ability, right? Or the will of the force, as we'll call it, for Star Wars. All of a sudden, she's like, you know what? Let me just try one more time, right? Let me just see if
It's just do or die right now.
something is sparked, right? She puts out her hands, and you look at the lightsaber. You're looking at it. You're looking at it. You're like, all right, nothing's happening. All of a sudden, you look at it again. You start to see it shake a little bit. And I don't know if I was the only one, but once that started to shake a little bit, not gonna lie, I kind of paused my TV and I was like, if they fucking have her force grab this lightsaber right now, I'm gonna be pissed. Soon enough, I unpause it, shakes a little bit more, shakes a little bit more. Next thing you know is in her hands. And then she kills the Death Trooper. And then she runs over to Ezra. And then she helps him kill the other Death Trooper. Now keep in mind everything that we just said, right? Her journey with the Force, becoming a Jedi, right? Her lack of force ability, her lack of lightsaber training and combat. We see that it has remained stagnant from episode 1 to episode 7. Now all of a sudden we see this massive jump where she could just casually pull a lightsaber to her. I don't want any of this, and this is for any fan. Don't give me any of this bull crap that this was life or death. It was a will of the moment, and she channeled the force through kind of like fright or flight, life or death, stuff like that. That is the lamest excuse to grant Sabine force power in this show. Dave Filoni is the one that is writing it. I would be very disappointed in Dave Filoni if this is the direction he went to introduce Sabine's force sensitivity. Okay. Now, not only do we have this scene, right? But later on, okay, and you know exactly where I'm going here, all right? Keep in mind everything that I told you before. Are we all together? Is the class still here? Are we all
Yes,
understanding each other?
I'm paying attention.
Okay, good. Thank you. Um, so we get to the next scene, right? Grand Admiral Thrawn is taking off. He's going into the upper atmosphere on the Chimera. They're going to make the jump to hyperspace. The good guys are going to lose. But wait, Ahsoka is going to stall Morgan and the other stormtroopers in order for Ezra and Sabine to get on the Chimera. Now you might be asking, but Philip, the Chimera looked pretty high up there. How are they going to get on the Chimera?
They also don't have a ship at this moment, by the way.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure you were asking that question. How could they possibly get up
I
there?
was. I was
I
like,
mean,
there's
that's
no
that's
rock
personally too much for a force jump. I mean, if I had to guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anybody do a force jump that
But
high
wait,
up. Maybe
but
down.
wait, there's more. Somehow, some way, Sabine is kind of feeling herself, right? And she's like, "Don't worry, Ezra. I have a plan. Why don't you jump, and then I'll give you a little push." And then this writing is bad, right? When even Ezra himself, are you sure? Like, are you sure you could do that? Our man Ezra is talking to us like it's like like breaking the fourth wall,
Are you
and
sure about that? Like,
pretty much, yeah. Just insert John Cena's face onto Ezra. There you go. So he runs, he runs, he runs, he jumps real high in the sky, like super high, right? Maybe he's about halfway there. But wait, all of a sudden, Sabine is like, pow, right? She puts her arms up. All of a sudden, he flies another couple 100 feet in the air, and by some miracle, he makes it to the edge of the Chimera. So not only do we see that she has the ability to force pull stuff to her, right? But wait, there's more. Apparently, all of a sudden, she grabbed whatever magical pixie dust she had in her back pocket, and she gave herself the ability to force push as well. So now that the class is coming to a close here, we see the development of Sabine's character throughout the entire show. And as we recapped through episodes 1 to 7, how much force ability does she have, Joey?
From 1 to 7, none.
How much lightsaber combat experience does she have, Joey?
If we're given a percentage, maybe 7%.
Okay. So we see that the stats are very low. Now all of a sudden we transfer over from episode 7 to episode 8. Now all of a sudden, how much force ability does she have, Joey?
Solid 80% right now,
How
if
much
not more.
lightsaber combat does she have, Joey?
I would say around the same, if not more.
So we're seeing a very high exponential jump here. And a lot of people would be like, huh, That's a little strange. It even takes, someone like a Padawan that was maybe taken from their home world to get, a accustomed to the Force, right? I mean, Padawans go through training, they learn how to wield lightsabers, they learn how to use the Force, and it doesn't take just overnight. I mean, it takes decades. I mean, some of these
Mhm.
Padawans do not turn into Jedi Knights until they're in their late teens. Okay, we have such wise Jedi such as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, that were still Padawans when they were teenagers. Obi-Wan was an older Padawan, and he is one
Was
of the most well-known Jedi in Star Wars history. Now, this is not the first time that we've seen something like this, right? Where we've seen this female character be introduced to the Star Wars universe and by God or by some reason all of a sudden have this amazing force ability that can match the likes of Ezra Bridger, Ahsoka Tano, I don't know, maybe Kylo Ren, Luke Skywalker. You probably get the gist of where I'm going with where we've seen this exact story play out before. And I'll tell you,
Mhm.
dear viewer, if you do not know where we've seen this exact story play out before, exact to a T, it's like, yo, bro, let me copy your homework. All right, just make a couple of changes. All right, bet. Literally the exact same thing from Rey in the sequel trilogy.
You know what I want to say, because I knew we were both going in that direction. When you were breaking it down and talking about, how all this stuff kind of just happened. And again, I have a random love for this movie, right? It brings me to Rise of Skywalker, right? We just see again in the beginning, oh, this sand monster's gonna kill us. I'll force heal him. Don't worry, I can do that now. Or it's like, oh, at the end, wait, Ben, you don't have your lightsaber? Let me just here you go. It just has to happen for it to work. And why this happened here, I truly, with
Now,
my whole
and
heart, do not
here's the
believe this
thing.
was Dave Filoni.
Right, here's the thing. We've discussed this before.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Star Wars is not in the hands of Lucasfilm anymore. Okay,
Yes.
it has been acquired by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the head of Lucasfilm is not George Lucas. Okay, he does oversee some projects, or they do get his input on some projects. However, the person behind Lucasfilms is Kathleen Kennedy.
Yes.
Okay, obviously, if you are a Star Wars fan, you have a pretty good understanding of who Kathleen Kennedy is and what she has contributed to the Star Wars franchise. And if you're wondering what she's contributing to the Star Wars franchise, I will tell you absolutely nothing. Or if she has, nothing good. Because now all of a sudden, these well known characters that we've seen throughout Star Wars, and for example, let's go back to the Ahsoka show, right? With Star Wars Rebels, we have Ezra Bridger, we have Kanan Jarrus, okay? We got Zeb, all right? Got Darth Maul, we want to throw him in there, right? We got the Grand Inquisitor, okay? That's another person, right? All these prominent characters, right? Now, these prominent characters that I just mentioned, they all have something in common. Do you know what they have in common? I'll tell you, Joey. They're all guys,
Mm.
okay? Now, we look at the female characters for Star Wars Rebels, all right? We got Princess Leia, okay, sure, right? Got Mon Mothma, okay, all right. We got a couple of the Inquisitors. All right, cool, cool. Got Ahsoka Tano. Oh, okay, all right. Pretty good, pretty good. We got Sabine Wren. All right, we got some Mandalorians. Okay, Bo-Katan makes an appearance. Sure,
Uh-huh.
just a couple of
Sure.
the characters that I mentioned, right? Mon Mothma, right? Very prominent role in the recent Andor project. Okay, some of the episodes focused heavily on her. Okay, we have Bo-Katan, right? Mandalorian season 3 practically encompassed
Heavy
her
on.
character, right? Ahsoka Tano, obviously she's great. Don't really have any problems with her, to be honest. She's one of the few that is perfect. Maybe not perfect, but pretty good. Sabine Wren, maybe not everybody's favorite character, but you know what? She did have a very good story in Rebels. She had a very good arc. When you look at her in season 3, I'm sorry, season 1 all the way to season 4, a lot of growth, a lot of character development, just overall, just a really enjoyable character. Where she might not have been your favorite, but you were like, okay, she's pretty cool. I like this Mandalorian, right? Now we fast forward to the Ahsoka project, right? And some people have dubbed the Ahsoka project as Star Wars Rebels season 5, right? It brings back a lot of Ghost Squadron. Okay. I also forgot to mention, I'm sorry, Hera Syndulla, obviously another prominent female character. She was done perfect in Star Wars Rebels. She was also perfect in the Ahsoka show, so no complaints there. Total mommy, just kind of throwing it out there. Um, Now we go back to the Ahsoka project, right? So we take a look at maybe some of these characters again, where they are now, right? Ezra Bridger. Last time we saw him, he was hyperspaced, in the Chimera, around a bunch of Purgle, and nobody knew where he was, right? Let's see. It took half the show to find out where he was. When she found him, right? Not only did she lie to his face, okay, and did not tell him the truth right away, but he also did not take his lightsaber back. Now, I don't know why, but for some reason, the idea of a prominent character not taking their lightsaber back, it kind of rolls off the tongue in a way where I feel like we've heard this before, or we've seen this before. Oh, you know where we've seen this before?
No.
I'll give you one guess. Go ahead.
The Last Jedi.
That's right, The Last Jedi.
Knew it. Yes.
In here, we have a similar situation where a new and up and coming female character, such as Sabine, a new and up and coming female character, such as Rey, tries to give a lightsaber back to a prominent male character such as Ezra Bridger, prominent male characters such as Luke Skywalker. And you know what they both do? Take a
No.
wild guess on what they both do.
They don't want it.
That's exactly right. They pull a Jon Snow and they were like, I don't want it. Luke throws it over a cliff. Ezra just doesn't want it for some reason because he gave it to her. So that's Ezra's position, right? And even throughout the rest of the show, I mean, we see him, okay, he's very well attuned to the Force, right? He's definitely enhanced his Force abilities. He's able to use combative style with the Force instead of a lightsaber. Okay, all right, that was pretty cool. He builds his own lightsaber. Okay, a nice throwback to Kanan Jarrus. Kind of throwing in a little bit of Rebels. Just watching him, make the whole lightsaber and basically modeling it after his own master's lightsaber was a nice touch. It is a very nice lightsaber. It was a great scene. But when we get onto that moment, I don't know, maybe besides, killing a couple of stormtroopers, flying really high in the air and boarding the Chimera, and having a thoughtful reunion with Hera and Chopper back in our known Star Wars galaxy, that was pretty much it, right? That was pretty much the extent that we got of Ezra. Okay. We take Kanan Jarrus. Fortunately, he's dead, right? So we don't see much of him in this show, of course. We hear mention of him, we don't see him. All right, we get to someone like Zeb. The first time we saw him in live action was in The Mandalorian, okay? And that was a brief, like, 2-minute cameo, right? Not a single mention of him in this entire show, okay? The only member of Ghost Squadron, well,
They mentioned
I
him
know,
once.
I know what you're about to say. I know what you're about to say. I just caught it. Apparently, the way they threw his character into the mix was that he's off training other people, and that's why he's not on the show, okay? So right away, we have Zeb, not even the show. Okay, whatever. So then, we move on to you know, our female characters, right? And we take someone like Sabine, okay, and she was more like a background character, definitely just kind of part of the gang, right? We had a couple of arcs in Rebels where it focused on her, but overall she was a background character, right? She's a Mandalorian, she's a supporting character, she's good with weapons, she's good with fighting, so on and so forth, right? Like I said, there's a couple of arcs that focus on her, of course, but I wouldn't have considered her a main character, to be honest, if I had to pick main characters for Rebels. And this is just my opinion, right? So we see her kind of go from this like background character. All of a sudden, some reason off camera, her and Ahsoka were master and apprentice for maybe like 2, 3 years, before Ahsoka even started, and we had no idea. So all of a sudden they just throw that little bit of information in that apparently there was this time period where Ahsoka tried to train Sabine with the lightsaber, and we don't actually see any of it. We don't see any of it. We don't see any flashbacks of it. All we do is hear of it. Oh, and you know what? You want to know what else? Besides this weird master apprentice relationship that they have, that kind of stained their relationship. We also have the fact that apparently all of her family was just killed in the Night of 1,000 Tears on Mandalore when Moff Gideon just like firebombed the planet. So apparently we're just mentioned that in passing. Again, no flashbacks, no cutscenes. We're just mentioned that. Hu Yang just casually drops that information like it's just pure gossip. So we get all this development apparently from Sabine off camera, right? So it doesn't even impact her character in the show because it all happens off camera. She loses her family, she loses her home planet, she blames herself because they used the very weapons that she created to destroy Mandalore. And she had this relationship with Ahsoka Tano as a master and apprentice that stunted their relationship and was the reason why they were no longer talking in the beginning of the show. Okay? Are you following me so far?
Following.
Okay. So we're introduced to her character. That's the state she in. So she goes from that state in the very beginning of the show. Now all of a sudden, what do we see in episode 8? She's wielding a lightsaber. Apparently she could use the Force. She's front and center as one of the main characters. And what does that go to show you? This goes to show that the people that are in charge of Star Wars, the people that are in charge of Disney, not every project is going to be safe. Right? We thought that, you know what, Ahsoka, this is in the hand of Dave Filoni. You know what, he's going to do great, right? Hopefully Disney does not influence him too much, right? We thought the same of The Mandalorian, all right? We got Jon Favreau, we got Dave Filoni again. Both great directors, both have put out some great shows. But just like we saw in The Mandalorian, it wasn't without its problems, and most of those problems probably stemmed from Disney and what they wanted to see in their characters. I mean, would you agree on me with that if you had to, say yes or no?
Oh yeah, like the main thing that I think
Well,
everybody can see.
before you continue, so I mean, so you agree with the whole Mandalorian thing. So now we look to Ahsoka, and unfortunately, again, even though Dave Filoni is a brilliant director, right? He brought us the Clone Wars, okay? He could not escape all of Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, and I will die on this hill. But what they did to Sabine Wren's character, unless there's a documentary that comes out and Dave Filoni, in his own words, says that this is how he wanted Sabine's character to develop, I will retract my statement. But until that day happens, what they did to Sabine Wren's character is a direct involvement of not only Disney, but Kathleen Kennedy. Because she tried to introduce this prominent female character in the sequels known as Rey. Obviously, we all know how the sequels turned out. Obviously, we all know how people feel about Rey's character. So she's like, you know what? I messed up once. Let me try again. And she's doing the same exact thing with Sabine that she did with Rey. All those similarities that, we touched upon earlier in our conversation. Yeah, it's literally Sabine and Rey just in different time periods. They've done the same things. They've both been granted force ability and powers like it was nothing. Like it was like they just walked out of a room and they came back in. All of a sudden, they're a Jedi, pretty much. So you will not persuade me that what they did to Sabine Wren's character was entirely because of Disney and Kathleen Kennedy. And it is the one thing that I do not like about the show because I personally liked Sabine's character. I still like her character because I agree that what they did in Ahsoka, like in these 8 episodes, should not be enough to kind of tarnish the character enough where you're like, you know what, I absolutely hate her. We got 4 seasons of great writing of her character in Rebels. So why should 8 episodes of her becoming force sensitive really be like, she sucks, I hate her character? Because I don't. I love the actress that plays her. One, she's super attractive. Two, she pretty much fits the character to a T. And three, I mean, she was fun to watch. the thing that ruined her character was the writing. And like I said, this is where I think this is where Kathleen Kennedy and Disney got their grubby little hands on Ahsoka to market it. They're like, you know what? We need female power, right? Give me Shin. Everybody's gonna simp over her. Give me Ahsoka. Everybody already loves her, but give me somebody else to simp over. Give me Sabine. We can't have enough force sensitive women in the Star Wars franchise. Let's just add another one, right? I mean, we already got Ahsoka. We already got Shin. What's one more, right? Let's just add three of them. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's a party, right? So that's really where I stand on the whole Sabine argument. So really, to kind of just bring this argument to a close, just the exponential growth and change in her character from episode 7 to episode 8, and her gaining these force abilities and just all of a sudden being comfortable in her own skin and like nothing ever happened. One, it moved way too fast. It made no sense because it was not developed in any type of way, right? If it was developed over these episodes, like we mentioned before, it would be a different story. But as we discussed, from episodes 1 through 7, nothing. No development, no growth. It was stagnant. She couldn't even move a goddamn cup. So she couldn't move a cup, but then she could throw a person hundreds of feet in the air onto a star cruiser. I mean, come on. So that's one of the negatives that I've had with this episode. And then honestly, one of the negatives that I've had for this whole entire show. I don't know if we were going to go into like just our overall thoughts about the show, but if it was something negative to pick out, this is definitely one of them. So this is definitely something that took off major points, which is why I gave it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, and that's just how I feel about that. So apologize for the very long rant and discussion, but I felt like I needed to be very specific and kind of like explain my thoughts so people just weren't like, oh my god, you're a misogynist, or it's like, no, like let me explain my thought process. Let me tell you what's going on. So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, it's good that like we have a lengthy discussion about this because again, I've seen a lot of positives about Ahsoka and really no negatives. And if they were negatives, they weren't actually like real negatives. I feel like they weren't true um, discussions or criticisms about the show. And again, here I love pretty much all of Star Wars' female characters, most recent female characters, the old female characters, and they do a good job with pretty much all of them. But like my brother said, the problem there's two main concerns here. One, we see the repeat of Rey. Like that's what I see a lot. And this is where I feel like inconsistency and the need to just make it happen is the problem. Where Star Wars does not want to take their time. Whether it's again, I think it's Disney. I do not believe Dave Filoni is this man that would do this. And unfortunately, again, people have agreements where they can't completely have all the control. And again, I believe this is where Disney controls Sabine in this scenario. There's 8 episodes of the show. 7 of them, no explanation. 1 of them, explanation, kind of. Again, go to Star Wars sequels. Ray's character was introduced, and I liked Ray's character, and to this day, I like Ray's character. I don't hate her. I don't love her. She's not my favorite, but I liked her character. Again, we get to the 9th movie, or the 3rd movie of that trilogy. She's Palpatine's granddaughter. That makes sense. Why she's pretty powerful. Force healing is a thing. This is a thing. Blah 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 blah. Just threw it in there. Really, really no backstory. It's kind of mentioned in passing. We get that here with Huang. And, again, talking about things that were crucial to Sabine's character that we saw in Rebels and explaining it here. And something that really I got disappointed in, but I also loved because I wanted to see it the whole series is seeing Sabine go badass and be that Mandalorian warrior that we all know and love. And unfortunately, she did it right after she used her force powers. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that that was the moment where she tuned into her what she knew, or whatever you want to call it, because all along Sabine should have been able to do that. At least by halfway through the series, she should have gotten her shit together realistically and got back to what she knew, and I I don't hate that she's force sensitive. I don't really see the need for it. That's kind of more how I feel about it. I don't really feel the need or see the need to make Sabine force sensitive because I really don't feel like general audiences or several different audiences are really wanting this, so to speak. Again, this show is about Ahsoka. Have your other characters in there. I love Shin. I love Hera. I love Sabine. But at the end of the day, I care most about Ahsoka in this show because it is her show, and she's just proving that she can be more and more badass. Again, you reintroduce Sabine, awesome. You reintroduce Hera, awesome. I love both of them in Rebels. I'm gonna love them here. But again, you do all this stuff off screen, which just doesn't work. This is not how stuff can work, especially if you have a series that's only 8 episodes long. Again, even if you save yourself and explain this, show flashbacks, do whatever um in the Heir to the Empire movie or whatever it's going to be called, or somehow you make another series of Ahsoka. As of right now, I don't think another season is happening, and Heir to the Empire isn't going to be for another 2 to 3 years. So now we're going to be left in the dark for 3 years, letting this muster and sit, and then by the time we get back, who exactly knows what's going to happen? So why Disney didn't learn with the sequels is beyond me, because the sequels have been gone for 4 years pretty much at this point. Um, I mean, again, they knew the reactions everybody had to the sequels, and the reactions everybody had to Rey. Again, Force Awakens comes out, and nobody really minds Rey. Last Jedi comes out. Yeah, that's when we kind of get, and then Rise of Skywalker comes out. People are like, what? Who the fuck is Rey? Why? What's going on? This is again, we see first couple episodes of Ahsoka. Oh, Sabine's rusty. Blah blah blah. We get to the middle, and it's like, oh, she should have her shit together by now. But oh, okay, I'm glad. Like, she's not doing. She's not an X-Men character. You know what? The Force isn't something that's like you get a mutation one day and all of a sudden you can be like Wolverine. That's not how things work. Or you can't just have this ultimate power, even if you say everybody
Well,
has the Force.
I do have to admit that when George Lucas came up with the idea, of the midichlorians and the Force, he publicly stated that everybody has the Force.
Oh no, I'm not saying in that
However,
aspect.
not everybody can wield the Force, right? And even Ahsoka says in one of these episodes that everybody might have the Force, but it takes a very specific and difficult training regimen to really be able to use the Force. And even if you can, or even if you can go through that training and practice, you're not guaranteed to use the Force.
Well,
And
yeah, that's not what I'm saying. Like in that term, like I'm saying, like how when X-Men again somebody gets the gene, whatever, they get their powers and stuff. Obviously, you train, how to use them, but once you get that power, again, you're a powerful person. You just get it. You have that power now. The Force, while the Force can reside in all of us, and all that stuff, it's like anything else. You need training to really do these certain things. And again, both the things that, yeah, whatever. She pulled the lightsaber. Not super extensive, but again, we saw really no movement of anything else before this. But then, honestly, if that was the only thing, I wouldn't be as disappointed. But then you have the force jump. Whatever. Ezra is powerful; he could force jump, but that high. And again, then you have her force. That again, you have to have some sort of training. You have to at least be later into your Padawan stages to even do that. And again, I don't even think she was close to the
and
level of beginning Padawan.
theoretically, over the 8 episodes that we got of Ahsoka, we only see Ahsoka training her once. And the
Yeah,
only training that we ever got from
it's lightsaber
Ahsoka to
combat.
Sabine directly was lightsaber combat. Ahsoka
Yeah,
never gave Sabine any tips on harnessing the Force, being able to use the Force, have a good understanding of the Force. What type of abilities can you use with the Force? What even is the Force?
force.
None of those lessons were even provided to Sabine. So the fact that all of a sudden she could just casually do it like it's nothing, again, just like you said, if that training was there, if that practice was there, if we saw her like every single episode try to use the Force, and over time maybe some started to shake, maybe started, some started to rumble, then it would have made sense. Then I would have been like, you know what? They developed her correctly. It took a lot of time. We don't know how much time passes between events within the show, but it would have been enough time where she went through enough training, she went through enough practice, where from the beginning she couldn't even move a cup, but now I believe that she could at least move a lightsaber. Again, the force jump, that's still debatable. I think if it was maybe just pulling the lightsaber, I would have been okay with it because it would have been a good mirroring from when she tried to originally move the coffee cup to eventually being able to move a lightsaber. I think that would have been good symmetry. It would have been like poetry because it rhymes, a little thing like that. Um, so I would have enjoyed that, but I think the force jump is just a little bit too much because I mean, again, force pulling is one thing, being able to push with the force is another thing. I mean, all these have different little subcategories that require different training, different methods, and just because you could pull one thing, that doesn't mean that you could, use telekinesis or use a mind persuasion or lightning or whatever. Um, so yes, so obviously that is a big deal, and most of these negatives, honestly, are not going to just stem from this episode, but just the show as a whole, because obviously the show as a whole was not perfect, and there were themes and things that were wrong with the entire show. And one of the next things wanted to get into that was negative. Were we done discussing Sabine? Did you want to say anything else?
I mean, again, the last thing I really wanted to say is I overall enjoyed Sabine's character in the show. Again, actress was phenomenal, look was phenomenal, but the biggest disappointment is I feel like there was a lack of planning around a character that they seem to want to focus on. Like this was a character that you made one of your main characters, and you from probably the first. I don't even remember the first trailer of the show, but from the first trailer and images of this show, it was Sabine and Ahsoka. That was the two main characters we were focusing on here. If it's your main character, you need to think about it. Like, and that's what really disappoints me with Disney is because I don't think you sat there and you thought about it. And you know how Star Wars fans are. We're two Star Wars fans that we love Star Wars, but we're not gonna crucify anybody on with our opinions or anything. We still love it, like no matter what. But you know how people are gonna be are out there, and I know a lot of people did not enjoy Sabine and probably are annoyed with that. And to a lot of people, you could have completely ruined what Rebels gave. I don't think it's that severe, in my opinion. Again, I love Sabine no matter where they take her character, because she does have prior stuff to this. But again, you focused on a character and you didn't give them the love and um the thought process that was needed to truly go in the direction you wanted to go. Again, you knew where you wanted to go, yet somehow you didn't plan for it. That's what is beyond me with Disney. Again, Disney, you have all the freaking tools in the world. You have all the materials, you have all the know-all, you have all the freaking money, and somehow you still continue to lack in trying to create something. Again, arguably a lot of people hated Disney Star Wars because of the sequels, but they've created some good projects out there and stuff. But the attention and detail and care that went into Andor, Rogue One, Season 7 of the Clone Wars, why the hell can't you put that into all your projects? Why can't you, if you're focusing on a main character, you need to sit down and you need to understand the history and the direction of this character. Again, you should know Star Wars has been around for over 50 years. You should know the basis and history of what you're making. Star Wars isn't something to be taken lightly, unfortunately, because so many people love, appreciate, and know it. It's very important to them in their lives. Or even if it's just, excuse me, a casual show, it needs to make sense. And something like this just does not make sense to me. And again, it's frustrating. It's like somebody trying to go obtain a doctorate, law degree, bachelor's degree, whatever degree. You need time and you need training and you need studying and you need hours and you need a lot of different tools to obtain that degree. Kind of like somebody that it needs to be decently trained in the force to be able to achieve things that they can do with the force. Ray at least was trained to a certain degree, so I could see some of the things she did. Some of them I don't, see how she did either. But for some things, I'd be like, okay, Ray was somebody who was trained over a period of 3 movies. Sabine, there was training that we never saw, and I wouldn't even call it training that we saw training besides that one lightsaber combat. And even then, she was still not good with a lightsaber until after that all happened, which just really disappointed me because no matter what, Sabine was always a great warrior. And you basically made her crippled in the beginning of the show until this moment. And I'm sorry, that's not the way to go about things. If you want to have a big moment where you show off this character, getting their moment, their time to shine. This is when they gain their powers. they still could be fucking badass before. They still can. I mean, again, like before the Mandalorian got his whole Beskar armor and shit, he wasn't just out there getting shot, a dozen times in one fight, from one or two people. And you have Sabine here getting, oh, my helmet, like flying across the forest. It's like, I don't understand. You basically crippled your main character to send her in the direction that made no sense. And again, me and my brother may sound like dicks to people right now, which I don't even think we do, because both of our criticisms are very valid. We're not being rude about it or anything. But Disney, I mean, come on. Like, I know you got to be out there listening somehow, even if you're not. Like, I'm sure people agree with us in the fact that you don't care. And it's sad, because again, I want the future of Star Wars to be bright, and I know everybody else does. And again, these are characters that people know, people love. People have been waiting years. Because again, if this is like a season 5 of Rebels, people have been waiting since what, 2018 to get more Rebels action? I mean, come on. I mean, 6 years for this stuff, 5, 6 years, and you finally bring it back on screen. And even then, you can't give us a clip of Zeb. Something like Zeb is training people. Wow, I'm so glad I know what's going on with Zeb now. Like I know you're probably waiting for other stuff, but again, you show Hera, you show this. Like, again, it's a lot of inconsistency. We know why, but if you want to do something, at least care about it. Like, and again, I don't think you care about it here, and that's the unfortunate thing. But that's the last bit I kind of got going on about Sabine. Again, I absolutely love Sabine's character, and I thought she was done okay in this show. But again, from what I just said, you can tell the rest. But why don't you go on to the other negatives from this episode, or just show in general?
Yeah, sure. So really, the only other negative that I had with this show, after giving it a little bit of thought, the only other negative that I have with this show, and obviously with the finale, um, is Shin and Balin.
Hmm.
Now, before everybody's like, "Oh, what do you mean? Like, Balin's character was really cool, whatever, blah blah blah." Like, Shin was a total baddie because everybody simped over her over TikTok. Um, my problem with both their characters is very similar to kind of my problem with Sabine. Is that from episode one again? Let's break it down, right? From episode one, okay, we're introduced to somebody named Balin Skull, right? We find out that he was a Jedi Knight of the Galactic Republic, okay? He served during the Clone Wars, okay? He was a general. He probably had his own clone detachment, whether that was a battalion or a legion, we don't know. We didn't get those details. However, we know he was a Jedi. We have Shin Hati, okay? She is currently being trained by Balin Skull. So she's an apprentice. He is the master. She's being brought up and taught in the Jedi ways because she does have a Padawan braid. Okay. We know that their names derive from Norse mythology. We have the Norse wolves of Skoll and Hati that would chase the sun and the moon around, and that's how we get the night and day cycles. And towards the end of Norse mythology, when it comes to Ragnarok, eventually, both wolves catch up with their chariots, and that, is part of the reason why the world ends because, there is no more sun, there is no more moon, blah, 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 all that stuff. So we do see that their names are being derived from Norse mythology, and we see right off the bat that they are chasing something very similar to their mythological counterparts, and they are chasing something in order to achieve a goal, right? Just as the wolves were chasing the sun and the moon to devour them, they are chasing a similar goal, but for something more, whether it's power or destiny or fame, whatever. So that was episode 1, okay? We get to episode 8. Balin Skull, right? All we know is that he was once a Jedi Knight of the Galactic Republic. He served in the Clone Wars. Okay, he was a general. Shin Hati. We know that she is the apprentice of Balin Skull, and she's being brought up in the Jedi way when it comes to Padawan training and so on and so forth. over 7 episodes, right? So from episode 1 to episode 8, that's it. That's all we get of Balin and Shin's character. We get no character development for either Balin or Shin. We get no personality, no characteristics of both Balin and Shin. Oh, but wait. We know that Balin somehow knew who Anakin Skywalker was. That's pretty much it. We know he is a good opponent. He is a good fighter when it comes to lightsaber combat. We could probably say the same for his force ability. Shin, on the other hand, she's probably definitely below Ezra. Um, you know, she's still better than Sabine, obviously, but she's just not up there when it comes to force ability and lightsaber combat just yet. I think she has the lightsaber combat down. The force ability, I don't know. But again, unfortunately, we didn't see too much of their abilities or combat, so we don't really know where they would rank. Over the whole entire show, that's all we get. And by the end of the show, rest in peace, Ray Stevenson, right? The last shot of Balin's skull is him looking out into the mountains of Peridea, and he is standing on a statue of the father. And the father is shoulder to shoulder with the son and what we would assume would be the daughter, but the daughter is obviously very run down and ruined, so you don't see her actual face, but you could assume it was the daughter. So we do see, towards the end of the show that there is a Easter egg, or there is a shout out to the Mortis gods. So we know that from Clone Wars and from Rebels, these Force deities were introduced. They were first seen in the Clone Wars, and then they were once again seen in Rebels. So we know that they are going to play a part in the future of either the Heir to the Empire movie. Maybe if they do something with Tales of the Jedi when it comes to Balin Skull, maybe they're going to drop a season 2 of Ahsoka. Nothing's been confirmed. Um, but regardless, we know that that is the mysterious force or energy that he was feeling and that he was searching for when he landed on Peridea, right? That's how his story ends. Like I said, rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. We don't know what's going to become of his character in live action. There's been rumors that, when Tales of the Jedi comes back next year, there might be an episode on Balin Skull. Obviously, that's a different story. It's animated. Anybody can really voice his character. So we don't know if that's true. I mean, I saw it on Facebook. Obviously, everything on Facebook is not true. So I don't know if this is actually fact. I don't, nothing's been confirmed. When it comes to Shin Hati, I mean, first of all, I mean, she's kind of abandoned by her master in a way, so he can go chase whatever is calling him, whatever dream he has. So she ends up joining these marauders that we find on Peridea, and she gets her butt kicked, and she runs away. And the last shot we get of her is her rejoining the marauders, practically becoming their leader. And that's it. Um, we don't get anything else. So these two really mysterious and highly potential characters that we followed in the show. Are they good guys? Are they bad guys? Are they Jedi? Are they Sith? What are they after? Where'd they come from? Etc. Etc. None of these questions answered besides what we already knew. And basically what we already knew is that Balin must have been a Jedi at some point, right? We know he knows Anakin. We know he served during the Clone Wars. That's it. So again, we see how shows in general, not just Ahsoka, but other shows in the past. I'm sure there've been other Star Wars projects where they've introduced characters, and absolutely nothing has been done with them. And again, the Heir of the Empire movie is 2 to 3 years away. Who knows if they're doing a season 2 of Ahsoka to kind of bridge the gap between the first season and the movie? We don't know if they're doing anything for Tales of the Jedi. So we have no idea what these characters are going to be doing, what even are they doing, and basically anything. We don't know anything until this movie drops. So they were pretty much a waste of character, to be completely honest. I mean, what did they again, everybody was simping over Shin. So I mean, that was the only contribution that she had to the show. Everybody loved Ray Stevenson, and everybody loves his character, the idea of his character, who he is. He's very mysterious, right? All these theories. But that's all it was. I mean, all it was theories, and he kind of just became really not important as soon as we got to Peridia and we were introduced to Grand Admiral Thrawn. And pretty much Morgan Elsbeth just kind of took her position as like the right hand woman for Thrawn, and it focused more on him and her, to be honest. And Balin and Shin were kind of just cast aside. So again, we have two very high potential characters that were just cast aside and forgotten about, pretty much.
Yeah. Again, that was pretty much my only other negative in terms of this episode. I really didn't enjoy how Shin's character left off. I think ever since Balin kind of left, her, I figured she was gonna go and fight Ahsoka and them and get her ass kicked and run away, which is what happened and what what she did, and then again she's stuck there now, joins the Marauders. Um, I just again I like you had something there, and that now you have no idea. You know, Balin again. I think one of the biggest things, and one of the honestly, you know, very good surprises about this show was his character. I absolutely loved him. I mean, not only as I wouldn't even call him a quote unquote villain, but his character I felt like was very well done, very well written, very well designed. I mean, Ray Stevenson. It's a shame that we will not see his completion or him in his character anymore. But for this one season that we saw of his character, I mean, we have all been blessed with like a great Star Wars character. I mean, I absolutely just loved everything about him on that screen. But again, even then, you give this very broad, very okay, yeah. So he was general, clones around, knows Anakin. Okay, something's calling to him. All right. There's a couple of things that could be calling to him. Oh, okay. Now he's standing on the hand of the father. What does that mean? Does is he similar? Does he have that balance of the force? Is something calling to him? That shows more power, more of the brother's power. Is that why that the daughter didn't really have she was destroyed and the brother was intact? Is that where he's leading? Is what side of the force? Blah blah blah. We have no idea. My best bet is we will see him next in Tales of the Jedi. I hope, but again, I don't even know if they started filming Tales of the Jedi or animating it or whatever it is. If they did, I don't know because I don't know when Ahsoka was filmed. So who knows? Even if it's a different voice actor, they might have not even planned. Maybe they didn't know Balin was going to be that popular. Maybe now that they did, maybe we'll add another episode. I don't know how these things work. Uh, but regardless, again, I do not see another season of the show. It just doesn't seem like, especially since it's a movie coming out. I don't think Star Wars cares enough to create something in the middle of it. They have other crap coming out. I guarantee they're not going to care to, they'll be like, yeah, they'll hold over until the movie. Um, so if that's the case, I gotta wait 3 years to really see what happened to Balin. I'm gonna be pretty disappointed because I don't even know how they're gonna close out his character. That's kind of why I'm hoping for Tales of the Jedi, where at least if we see a younger story of him, at least we know more about him, and then can leave off on a decent way. Again, if that's the last we ever see of Balin's character, it's not a terrible way to leave off, especially with events that happened in real life. There's not much you can do about that, and I want his character to have justice. And if that's it, that's it. So again, I'm hoping to see more of that. But you introduce these two great characters. Like again, Shin, eh. Again, I like her character. She's interesting and she can go in a lot of directions. So that's what I like about her. And Balin, I think is great. So you introduce these two new, fresh characters. We don't know nothing about them. Very different, awesome. Great characters in this Ahsoka show. Again, Shin, you just throw it to the side. Like, nothing happened. Again, after like obviously once they got there, Thrawn was going to be the big baddie. They weren't going to be the imminent threat anymore. But even then, it's like at least if Shin would have been like an assassin, right hand, second hand woman to Thrawn. Okay, at least we know she'll be back, in our universe, and maybe she'll go stronger in her powers, or something like that. But now she's gonna be with, a bunch of marauders in a world that really isn't that populated. Is she gonna stay in tune with her force? Is she gonna care? Is she gonna kill all the Marauders and just do something herself? Is she gonna do something with Night Sisters? We don't know. You know, again, unanswered questions. Not always the worst thing because they may or may not get answered, but in this case, we don't know. We know nothing about the Heir to the Empire movie. I don't even know if that's what it's being called. That's just what I've been hearing. We know nothing about the Dave Filoni movie in sense of what characters he's putting into it because I don't know if there's going to be another Mandalorian season before then. I don't know if we're going to see more of Ahsoka and these characters. We don't know what's going on. Um, I don't know how they're going to answer it. I am very curious to see. Um, but again, overall, again, there's just some inconsistencies in there and lack of information that kind of doesn't really help in terms of these character stories. And those were the rest of the negatives I had in this episode. And especially, it was at the end. You know, this is probably literally the last 5, 10 minutes, if that, of the episode. And it's like, oh yeah, there they are. It's just thrown. And literally, shit is just like, lightsaber. You know, that's it. Like we see him walk up on a hill with a lightsaber, and then we see Bailey. At least his shot is a little more interesting. But we just see not even 30 seconds of each of them. So I didn't really like that. It just felt like it was thrown in there again. Make the episode longer at least. Show something else. I don't know. Show some inner dialogue between the two of them. Something like that. Um, but yeah, that was really the last negative I had about the show, and I guess you could kind of say overall in terms of their characters. I'm pretty sure we nailed every point that we wanted to talk about, even with the show, of our positives, negatives about it.
Yeah. And I mean, really, I think just kind of like a way to like kind of wrap up our thoughts and just move out of this episode or this conversation is really just to kind of summarize what the Ahsoka show did for Star Wars and what direction Star Wars is going to be going into now that the Ahsoka show is over. Now, obviously, before the show aired, I think me and you could both agree that obviously there was a lot of hype around the Ahsoka show.
Yes.
Obviously, Ahsoka Tano is a very beloved character. Most girls inspire to be her. Everybody loves her, right? Um, Everybody had a pretty positive opinion of Star Wars Rebels. Everybody was looking forward to seeing these characters in live action. Fans of Grand Admiral Thrawn from his book trilogies, to Rebels, again, we're excited to see his return. So you had a branching of multiple Star Wars fans from different avenues coming to watch this show for a reason, right? And obviously, when the show was out, and it was performing, I mean, again, we could both agree that it was very popular on social media. There were a lot of edits, there were a lot of posts about it, there were a lot of theories being made, a lot of theories being talked about. And overall, it was very positively accepted by the Star Wars community. Overall, if I had to be completely honest, I think this was a revival period for the Star Wars community. I don't think I've ever seen the Star Wars community this happy, this hyped, um, for a project in a while. Obviously, before this, we had, the Bad Batch, we had Mandalorian season 3, and in the eyes of some people, they were okay, right? People weren't jumping up and down for joy, whatever. It was obviously there was a lot of controversy and kind of like 50-50 with the Mandalorian season 3, and I think the same could be said for Bad Batch season 2.
I love Bad Batch.
Um, right, I mean, obviously, not everybody felt that way, but it seemed like overall, the Star Wars community was kind of just like, whatever. Um, And then again, now we get to the Ahsoka show, and again we see that there's some sort of like resurgence, some sort of revival, where people have been coining it, one of the best times to be a Star Wars fan, right? Because it's tying in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, it's tying in Star Wars Rebels, it's tying in Ahsoka Tano, it's tying in Thrawn and all of his books and the trilogies. Okay, and I think overall, I think the Ahsoka show is good for Star Wars. I think it's a good note to end on for the 2023 year, especially when the future of Star Wars is so uncertain. Now, a lot of people have dubbed the Ahsoka as maybe Dave Filoni's possible way to rewrite the sequel trilogy. With the Ahsoka show and with the Heir of the Empire show, and having all of these shows, the Book of Boba Fett, the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, combine into one movie. People are starting to dub this the new sequel trilogy.
Hmm.
And evidence of that could be seen, because they went to another galaxy. They're in a different part of our galaxy. If we're looking at our Star Wars galaxy as a whole, they could be an entirely different part of the galaxy. Um, so, who knows if people are going to start seeing it that way, right? Um, Again, I don't know how true this is, right? But the projects lined up for 2024, I believe we have Bad Batch season 3. We have the introduction of Skeleton Crew. We have Tales of the Jedi season 2, which I believe is coming out in the fall of 2024. And I believe we actually have Andor season 2. Okay. So when you look at all these shows statistically, right? Again, just as pure statistical standpoint, okay, not any personal bias. You have projects such as Andor and Tales of the Jedi that are probably going to perform and rate extremely well, right? Skeleton Crew, we don't really know so much about it. We know the basic information about what the story is about, but again, right? We've seen this story done before. Kids getting lost on a ship, afraid to be boarded by pirates. Literally, it was just like if they looked back into the Clone Wars and took that exact arc from the Clone Wars, that's
Yeah.
exactly what that show is going to be. So if you enjoyed that arc of Clone Wars, you're probably going to enjoy this show. Again, Bad Batch, fans of the Clone Wars, some people love this show, some people think it's like eh. So you have those two projects that are kind of hit or miss, right? So it looks like Star Wars is kind of 50-50 for next year, right? And then obviously, that leads into, I think by that time, probably one of the first new movies, right? Probably Dawn of the Jedi, I mean, or one of those movies.
I mean, as far as I know, what those movies were slated 2025, 2026.
That's what I
Uh,
thought.
I think they were supposed to come out in like a 3 year span. I don't know which one was first. I think the Jedi one was first, and then the Ray movie was in the middle, 2026, 2027, 2026, somewhere around there.
So I
But
mean,
also,
basically, I mean, for 2024, you kind of have like, maybe your make or break
you
year,
may not have as much in 2024, it seems, as
yeah,
like
like, maybe
2025.
maybe you get some good content, maybe you get some content. Um, so basically what I'm trying to say after, you know, summarizing all this is it was a good point in time for Star Wars fans. I think if a lot of these projects in the future flop, people are going to look back to the time when like Ahsoka was out, and they're probably going to compare it to Ahsoka, and they're like, why couldn't they do this? Why couldn't they do that? Um, I think this is what Star Wars needs. Um, again, especially when you have someone like Dave Filoni that is the literal apprentice of George Lucas. This is the type of Star Wars content that we need to see. This is the type of Star Wars content that other directors need to take inspiration from. Like, again, if they do anything else with The Mandalorian, I hope Jon Favreau and the other directors could wrestle more control away from Disney and put out the product that we saw in season one, that we saw in season two. I mean, like, they had the material, they had the formula, right, to make it work. Okay. Take inspiration. Again, Andor, they had the material to make it work. Okay. We got all these other shows like the Book of Boba Fett, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that unfortunately were just too heavily influenced, by Disney and just flopped. And so yeah, so I mean, I think it's a good time for Star Wars fans. I definitely think there's a lot to be thankful for and look forward to for the end of the year. Um, and unfortunately the future is kind of uncertain with Star Wars. I just feel like that's kind of the general synopsis for not only Star Wars but franchises like Marvel and DC, just with everything with the writer and the actor strikes, and just how you continue to progress these multi-decade franchises. you know it's hard. And you're going to have these periods in these franchises where the movies are going to suck, the shows are going to suck. They just don't know what to put out anymore. And I don't think that's the case, for these franchises. I still think they have a lot left in the tank, but you risk running that problem, with these multi-decade franchises. Again, just a quick tangent, Marvel, obviously this year, very hit or miss, right? Loki season 2 has been out. It's been like
I
three episodes.
honestly
It's
forgot it
been
was out.
three
I'm not
episodes
even
in. I
gonna
think the fourth episode airs tonight. It's been an absolute banger.
That's
So I
good.
mean, if this is how Marvel ends this year, just like
Oh
Star
no.
Wars, they're ending on a decent high note. Okay, the only studio that's struggling right now is DC, because
Don't even
all
know
of their
what's going on.
projects that they put out this year have sucked
I heard
pretty
Blue
much.
Beetle was good. It
It's
made
more
no
or less,
money,
it's one of
but
those things where maybe people more, well, honestly, I think Blue Beetle was really the only positive movie, at least for audiences. I think all the other movies sucked pretty much.
what were even the other DC movies that came out? What, Black Adam?
Shazam,
Black Adam, Shazam,
um,
Blue Beetle. That's it, right?
Flash,
Oh yeah, and damn, that sucks.
and then
Yeah,
I don't
DC
know if
didn't do
Aquaman and the
good.
Lost Kingdom comes out this year.
I mean, it seems like it. I mean, the Funko Pops and all that crap is everywhere, but I don't even know like what's going on with that. But like, kind of like you were saying, I feel like Ahsoka right now is kind of the point that Clone Wars season 7 was, and it feels like that time again, or it felt like that time, more when the Ahsoka show was ending. And I think a lot of people, you know, need to realize is this was likely one of the last times we will ever see certain actors in their roles. Again, we don't know if Hayden Christensen will ever be Anakin Skywalker again on screen. He said he will continue to play, the role if they want to keep doing it, but we don't know what's going to happen. Also, again, once Bad Batch is over, which season 3 is the final season, that's it. No more Clone Wars. No more Clone Wars animation. No more clones. That's it. Unless you get stuff from live action somehow in some sort of project, but you won't see that for a while. Unless, again, they do that somehow in something else. So we're going to see a period in the next 3 years ish or so, 2 to 3 years probably, where we're going to see main Star Wars stories come to a close, come to an end because it has to. It can't drag on. And, again, come 2024, really after Heir of the Empire, Skywalker Saga, I mean, pretty much it was supposed to end with the sequels, but it's will officially probably end in terms of those characters during that time. There's only so much more they can use on these characters, again, unless they go back and make specific projects, such as the Vader project, live action Clone Wars, if they really wanted to do that. If they want to just pour money into making stuff that they know people will go see, I'm sure they will continue to do that. But we're going to see again, we're going to see a shift and we're going to see a change, just like Marvel. I guarantee Heir to the Empire is going to be an Endgame esque movie. Maybe not in the terms of obviously scale and stuff, but again, you're going to have Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, all these Star Wars shows come together in this one film. And this one film is supposed to be directed by, again, Dave Filoni, a man who is known in the Star Wars community to be a Star Wars god at this point. And this will be the end game of Star Wars, and it will reset basically what we know in the Star Wars universe. We will see a whole new shift of characters that we're going to start to focus on, a whole new world we might get introduced to. And it's sad because, again, this Star Wars universe has been around for far longer than the so-called Avengers timeline in Marvel. You know, it's been around since the 70s, early 70s. So again, 40, 50 plus years, and it will end. And even to people like me and my brother, it has been around as long as we've been alive, and I'm sure as everybody else that has watched our podcasts. Um, and that period will be ending, and we will see a new period of Star Wars, hopefully in the hands of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. I am a stand in this point of I believe that they should be in charge of Lucasfilm, Star Wars, Disney. I think they are two of the perfect people to do it. I think Jon Favreau has proven not only with The Mandalorian, but that man has produced many movies that have been bangers, not only for outside of Disney, but in Disney. He has produced some of the best live action movies that Disney has put out. Everybody says his live action Jungle Book is the best live action Disney movie. So he has done many things for Disney. So is Dave Filoni. Put them in charge, and I guarantee the future of Star Wars is in good hands. Um, but it's gonna come. A lot of stories are coming to a close in the next couple of years, and it's sad. But I'm excited to see the future. And I think again the Ahsoka show created a time where we really saw a lot of Star Wars fans kind of come back. You know, after the sequels, a lot of people really didn't care much for Star Wars until the Clone Wars came back. Clone Wars came back, a lot of people revived it, went away. Lego Star Wars came around. You had that whole time where people were talking about Legos and Star Wars. Okay, and then again, Ahsoka was that big thing. Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, all those shows, not crazy. So again, I think that the future of Star Wars is bright, but I also think we're gonna see a lot. Again, I think it's gonna be like the time of Avengers Endgame in the period before, and we're gonna see the close of a lot of characters and the revamp or introduction of a new saga or series or however they're gonna plan to play out, their Star Wars universe, so to be it. And they can do it, but again, they have to put in time, care, and love. Again, there's a reason why Avengers Endgame was so big, and it was because of that start in 2008 with Iron Man. I mean, we're talking over a decade, and it will take over a decade to get, if you want to get Star Wars to the point of where it is now because of George Lucas's baby in the originals, you will need to take your time and do that. Again, it's George Lucas's first three movies. Pretty sure it was around 9, 10 years in the span of A New Hope to Return of the Jedi. I'm pretty sure that was the difference, or maybe less, but almost a decade probably for those three movies, that were released. So you will have to do something very similar here, in the future of Star Wars. But future Star Wars is bright. We're gonna continue to talk about Star Wars on this podcast. We will have those episodes like I told you about each movie, probably each trilogy, each show. I mean, there's a lot of Star Wars we can continue to talk about, and a lot more future projects that I know for a fact we will talk about. But that was my little tangent about kind of what I, think is going to go on in terms of Star Wars and exactly what direction they may or may not be going in, and what direction I hope they are going in.
Yeah, no, I think that was very well said. We're on the same page, obviously, when it comes to
Excuse me.
what the show meant for Star Wars and what the future of Star Wars holds. So I think that's a good way to wrap up our conversation for tonight. I mean, just quickly, if you had to give an overall ranking for the show, like out of 10, what would your score be?
I am going to say that I am going to give this show a 9.3 out of 10. Again, sorry, I got to do you the points again. But this show was an A tier show for me. There is really only one episode that I wasn't crazy about, but I can't sit here and say that I didn't like. I didn't like one episode of this show. I thought I liked every episode of this show. I thought they had three pretty amazing episodes, honestly. So 3 out of 8 amazing episodes, at least in my opinion, is pretty high for an 8 episode show. And there's just a lot of fan service that they definitely put into the show as well, in certain aspects, certain episodes, and I think it produced one of the best live action Star Wars pieces of all time in that episode 5, as well as bringing live action Rebels drawn to life. Um, it really did a lot for fans, and that's why I'm gonna give it a 9.3. Again, a couple of unanswered questions. Not a big fan of that. A couple of it seems like wasted potential. We don't know yet, as well as the whole Sabine thing. So that is why I take off a couple little points for that. But overall, I absolutely love the show. I will be definitely doing a rewatch and doing, diving a little bit more in deep. I plan on getting all the Lego sets, especially that Phantom Ghost looks absolutely stunning. I know you have it. Anyway, and her shuttle. You're only missing one set actually as of now.
Yeah,
The
I'm just missing the Starfighters.
that's like a Christmas gift or something. But again I love the show, and I'm excited to see more. And again, I hope this is not the end of these Ahsoka characters, and I hope we see them for a couple more years, or if in more projects at least.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm a little bit lower, to be honest. I think I'm going to give it like a solid 8.5 out of 10.
I figured.
Um, I think some of the negatives that were wrong with the show, I think just kind of heavily impact it, especially when you have such a short show and it's only 8 episodes. I mean, if
Understandable.
we were talking about like, a season of The Mandalorian or Andor where it's like 12, 13 episodes, totally different story. But because we have
Yeah.
8 episodes and we're kind of like in a time crunch, some of the major parts of this story were impacted based on the decisions that were made. But overall, it was a great show. Every episode got at least an 8 out of 10 or more. Like I said, it is definitely a solid A tier show. It is like low A tier. It deserves that spot within the rankings. However, I think obviously, Andor and The Mandalorian are better. So because this is like, lower A tier, it gets that 8.5 out of 10 Suns for me. But overall, we both have a pretty positive experience with Ahsoka. We really hope that you guys had a pretty positive experience with Ahsoka as well, and you guys enjoyed the show. We would love to hear your thoughts and comments about what you thought, what you think the future of Star Wars is going to look like, and what you were looking forward to. Because obviously, when all those new projects come out, we will definitely discuss it. I mean, again, when the final season of Bad Batch comes out, we will talk about that because we've already done a breakdown of the first and second season of The Bad Batch. If you have not watched that, those were actually our first episodes on YouTube,
Woo!
which kind of seems crazy because it's been like months ago.
I know.
Um, we never did anything for Tales of the Jedi. We could always tackle that, like, before the second season comes out.
We'll cover
Um,
every show at some
which,
point.
again, the first season was really good, so I have high hopes for the second one. I'm sure we'll maybe do breakdowns of maybe Skeleton Crew when it comes out if we both watch it religiously like we did Ahsoka. And then, like you said, regardless, if we don't keep up to date on everything, we're going to be going back in time a little bit. We're going to be discussing the movies in detail. Then I think we're going to start with the movies probably. Then maybe we'll gravitate towards TV shows. We'll play it by year. I mean, unfortunately, there's not really too much to talk about outside of stuff of our choosing. So we're just on a big Star Wars kick lately, so it's just going to be all about Star Wars. Of course, if you guys have any other suggestions, let us know. But ultimately, it seems like next week we're probably going to be starting our Star Wars movie breakdown. And I think I mean, unless we discuss otherwise, but if not, that's the direction it seems like it's going to be going.
Most
And the
likely.
first movie that we're going to be covering probably is the Phantom Menace because I assume we're just going to go in order from episodes
Yeah.
1 to 9.
Yeah.
So we would cover the prequels first, then followed by the originals, and then the sequels. So we don't know the format. We don't know exactly what we're going to do for those episodes, but we know we want to do episodes about them. Like I said, if we choose not to do it right away, you'll find out next week. But just look forward to that, and that's pretty much probably most of the content that's going to cover, at least the rest of the year, unless we find other stuff to talk about, or we do solo episodes on maybe stuff that we just want to talk about. Um, but that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this mini series when we went over the new Disney Plus show, Ahsoka. Again, it was a great project, but unlike like every project out there, it has its faults. But overall, it was a great show. It was nice seeing the Rebel characters back. It was nice seeing Thrawn. It was nice seeing Ahsoka, and so on and so forth. So like I said, if you guys haven't checked out our previous episodes on this Ahsoka series breakdown. They are on Two Sons Podcast on Spotify, and all your other podcasting platforms. They are also on YouTube at Two Sons Podcast under the Star Wars playlist. And again, we cover from episode 1 all the way to the finale, which was episode 8. So check them out. People really seem to enjoy them. It was a lot of fun doing this little mini series. This is probably the first series that we've actually ever finished,
Yeah.
besides the Bad Batch. So I mean, it was a lot of fun. So I'm excited to get into some new material now that this is wrapped up. Again, apologies for the delay, but obviously, shit happens, and you found out why we were gone for 2 weeks. So hopefully, you guys enjoy our little renewal, and you come back to listen to this episode. To close this out, of course, within the socials, we are on Instagram, we are on X, formerly known as Twitter. We are on Facebook and YouTube at Two Sons Podcast. Now, YouTube also does have its own Instagram and TikTok, just real simple. I believe I have it as Two Sons YouTube. So, that way we just get a lot of publicity and a lot of marketing out there by, Joey posting stuff and then I post stuff. That way people just, double postage, maybe double viewership. You figure maybe stat wise, that's how it works out. We don't know if it works out like that, but that's the thought process.
Yeah.
So like I said, go check us out on those. Leave us a follow, leave us a like and a comment. Like I said, get us to those 1,000 followers on whatever, so my boy Joey can go drop $700 on the Venator. Um, but if not, regardless, we always appreciate all the love and support that you guys give us, and the amazing journey that we've been on. The last what feels like almost 2 years. I feel like, so just thank you guys from the bottoms of our heart. We always say it every single episode, but again, it's true. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, this episode is going out Thursday night, which is the 26th. So, the videos will and the audio will be available to listen to and watch Friday morning, which is going to be October 27th. So whether you watch us on YouTube or any of the podcasting platforms, please enjoy the episode. Like I said, leave us, some comments, leave us some feedback if you so choose. But if not, the fact that you guys listen is more than enough, at least for one of us. But yeah, like I said, thank you guys so much. And before we wrap up the episode, I'm just going to give it off to my brother for his final words of wisdom, and then we will call it a night.
Lovely words there, my lovely brother of mine. Just a couple of things before we end out the episode. We're thinking about not necessarily rebranding, but thinking about getting a new logo. I have a friend that I used to work with that is a digital artist, or artist in general, that they happen to know digital art. I will try to contact them in terms of maybe working out a couple of logos for us and see if we could rebrand with another logo. Also, I'm thinking about, we're thinking about adding some more categories to our list of what we talk about. We are a film and movie podcast. But I think it would be interesting to just talk about other things in life. Again, we both are history people. We both are still in education, and I think there's a lot of fascinating topics we can talk about out there. Also, since I've been starting to listen to a lot of podcasts on certain things, and like just topics that I think anybody can talk about, I might even try to do some solo episodes on that if I get the time. So let us know if there is any other content you may or may not want to hear. But again, we're still a film and movie podcast through and through. That's what we love. That's what we, definitely bond over. We're going to continue with that. But just letting you guys know, I'll definitely update the bios and everything, because I do want to change a couple of the bios. I think they're still from when I started this podcast, so they need a little refresher. I got a little better with my writing since then. But, again, I love seeing the new analytics on podcasters. Again, I'm not exactly sure in terms of if those people watched us, searched us up, how exactly it works. But the fact that that's almost 3,000 people being exposed in one way or another to Two Sons podcast is very pleasant to, I'm sure, both me and my brother. And, my goal is that 1,000 followers. My goal on Spotify is 100 followers, like subscribed. Um, whether or not, again, we get there isn't the biggest thing in the world. What matters is you guys come out and actually enjoy listening to us. Again, want to hear that feedback. I'm going to keep bugging you for it. But again, it's not just because I want to see feedback, for money or monetary or none of that. I don't care about that stuff. I care about what you guys actually are interested in. And if you're enjoying our episodes, I want to know, who listens to us. We have, 14, I think 15, 14, 15 countries out there that listen to us. Let it, how did you find out about us? Like, I'm curious. I really am curious. Did you stumble across us? Did somebody tell you about us? Did you just look up Star Wars podcast, film podcast, Two Sons? I don't freaking know. Because when we first made our podcast, there was no other podcast by our name. There's one other one, but they have a son with a U, not an O. I guess they're not two brothers. Or they saw that it was taken. I don't know. But we're only Two Sons podcast in the world. But once again, guys, thank you for coming out and listening to our conclusion of the Ahsoka series. Again, it's a little late, but no problem with that. It will be, concluded. So you will have a whole mini series in our podcast, based on Ahsoka. And again, it was a lovely show. If you haven't by now, you know about it. So you might as well just go watch it. If you've been listening to us, or go rewatch it, do whatever you want. But once again, you can find us on many podcasting platforms: Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast, Pocket Cast. You can find us on YouTube as well, all under Two Sons Podcast. That is Sons with an O, not a U, because we are two brothers. Check out my Instagram, Twitter /X, and Facebook, all under Two Sons Podcast as well. I've been trying to post a lot more on Twitter because I feel like it's easier. You get more exposure. Trying to do more on Instagram as well. So again, Hit us up on there if you got any questions, concerns, comments, whatever it is, or if you just want to say hi. Uh, with that being said, thank you guys for coming out to another lovely episode. By the time we join you next, should be after Halloween. So unless somehow we get together before Halloween, have a great Halloween, guys. Be safe. Go out trick or treating. Don't care how old you are. Just wear a costume if you go trick or treating. I don't know if people will give you candy if you don't. Be safe. Be fun. Have fun. Eat some candy. Watch a scary movie or two. Go see Five Nights at Freddy's tomorrow. If not, watch it on Peacock or something because I think I might watch it on Peacock before I go to the movie theater. I'm not exactly sure yet. But either way, Five Nights at Freddy's is upon us. Very, very excited for it. And again, just watch some other horror movies. And then we're going to get around to Hallmark movies and Christmas. Gotta love that time. Once again, guys, thank you so much. We are very happy to be back. And, join us, next time with probably more Star Wars content, if not some more amazing content. True Sons Podcast.
Very well said. Very well said. And just like how we've done throughout this entire series, me and my lovely brother will leave you with a farewell, goodbye, adios, and may the force be with you all.
May the force be with you guys.